Okay, this is Geometry Chapter 3. This test, or this chapter, I guess I should say, two big sections in the chapter. The first sections cover transversal and parallel lines. It's very important to understand this. If two lines are parallel and they are transverse by transversal, then several different, actually 4 different relationships of angles are formed. We have corresponding angles, alternate interior angles, and alternate exterior angles. These 3 all share the same relationship, is that they are congruent. Corresponding angles are congruent, alternate interior angles are congruent, alternate exterior angles are congruent. Consecutive angles are angles that when we add them together, we end up with 180 degrees. I'm going to show you an example of this. On parallel lines, if I tell you that this line and this line and I say they are parallel, and then I bring a transversal through, 8 angles are formed by that. We have angle 1, angle 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Alright, vertical angles are still congruent, and also any linear pair are also equal to 180. So none of that changes. Now, on this though, we've got several other relationships. So if I was going to go with let's say a pair of corresponding angles, an example would be, I'll slide this over, you can see it. An example of corresponding angles would be angle 1 and angle 5. Okay? The thing to remember is same side of the transversal, one is inside and one is outside. Okay? Now, if we have alternate interior angles, those would be that alternate the transversal but are on the inside of the parallel lines. So angle 4 and angle 5. Okay? If I have alternate exterior angles, those would angles that alternate the transversal but are on the outside. So like angle 2 and angle 6. Okay? And then lastly, if I have consecutive angles, those are angles that are on the same side and the inside. So 3 and 5. 3 and 5. Those are just some examples of knowing how to label them. Now, in saying that, if we have, for instance, a problem that shows where we have 2 sets of lines that are parallel, okay, and in this problem, I'm asking you to solve for x, and I give you 3x minus 14 for this angle right here, and then right here I give you 70. Now, knowing these angles are on the same side of the transversal, one's outside, 70 is, one's inside, so that means these angles are corresponding. Okay? Since they're corresponding, I know that they equal each other. So I come over here and I say 3x minus 14 equals 70. I add 14 to both sides. I get 3x equals 84. Divide both sides by 3 and x is equal to 28. And then if I want to check it, I would just plug in 28 for x, and I'd get 3 times 28 is 84. 84 minus 14 is 70. So knowing these relationships and how they work together is how you end up solving the problems, knowing how to set it up. So section 1 of our chapter, or I don't want to say section 1, but the first 5 sections of our chapter cover transversals and parallel lines. Very important to know those relationships. Now, the last section of our chapter covers, or the last 2 sections, covers slope and parallel lines and perpendicular lines. Okay? Now, slope has got basically the 2 important formulas to know for this would be how to find slope All right, slope we represent as m is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then the other formula to know is the equation of a line. That is y equals mx plus b. And in this equation, m represents my slope and b represents my y-intercept, or where the line crosses the y-axis. Now, on this part, several things we can do. In this problem, it says find the slope of the line that passes through the points 2, 1 and 0, -3. Well, and in this problem, I just go ahead and set it up and say y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, -4 over -2 results in 2. So the slope of that line is 2. All right, now, parallel and perpendicular lines. If slopes are parallel, or if lines are parallel, then they have the same slope. So an example would be line 1 has a slope of 2, the next line has a slope of 2. So it's the same slope. Okay? If they're perpendicular, if this one is 2, then this one is -1 over 2. It's the opposite reciprocal. So what we do is we flip it and change the sign. Flip it and change the sign. Now, if we're going to determine whether the lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, for instance, in this one, if I tell you line 1 is y equals 6x minus 2, and line 2 is 3x plus 2y equals 6, and I want to know if they are parallel, perpendicular, or neither. Well, the first thing that I need to know are my slopes. Now, in this one, it's already set up in y equals mx plus b, so my slope is 6. This one, I have to do a little work first. I need to solve for y. So what I do is I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides to get 2y equals -3x plus 6. Then I'm going to divide everything by 2. And I end up with y equals -3/2 x plus 3. So the slope of this line is -3/2. -3/2 is not the opposite reciprocal of 6. -3/2 and 6 are not the same. So my answer is neither. They're neither parallel nor are they perpendicular. Alright? Now that you know how to find slope, if you have a problem that says write the equation of a line that passes through the point 2, 2 and is perpendicular to the line y equals 3x minus 4. Alright, so I know my end result, I need to have it in y equals mx plus b. Key word here is perpendicular. This line is y equals 3x minus 4. The slope of this line is 3. So the slope of a line perpendicular to it would be -1/3. So I come over here and I have y equals -1/3 x plus b. Now I've got my m. The only thing that I'm looking for now is my b. So I take my point that was given, 2, 2, because the line passes through 2, 2, and I plug in 2 for the y, 2 for the x. Now I'm just solving for b. -1/3 times 2, -2/3. Then I add 2/3 to both sides since this is negative, and I get 2 2/3 or 2.67 for my b. I come back and just plug it in. Y equals -1/3 x plus 2.67, which is also the same thing as 2 2/3. And I found my slope to be -1/3 because it was perpendicular to the given line. Okay? This problem is a little bit easier. Write the equation of a line that passes through 2, 1 and 3, 0. Now, before we go to that, I want to tell you something that would be super important to know, like maybe for a bonus, would be name the 4 slopes. Okay? And naming the 4 slopes, you have 1 would be positive, 2 would be negative, 3 would be 0, and 4 would be undefined. So the 4 slopes are positive, negative, 0, and undefined. Okay, now back to this problem. Write the equation of a line that passes through 2, 1 and 3, 0. Once again, the big picture I need to find the slope. I need to find the slope, and I need to find the y-intercept. Okay, so on this problem, I'm going to use these points to find slope. 0 minus 1 over 3 minus 2 results in a negative 1. So my slope is negative 1. Now, I'm going to come back here and go plug in. It doesn't matter which point I pick. They're on the same line, so it'll result in the same answer. I'm going to pick 3, 0 because it has 0 in it. Plug 0 in for y, 3 in for x, negative 1 in for m. I multiply 3 times 1 and get negative 1, add 3 to both sides, and my answer is b is equal to 3. So my equation of my line would be y equals negative 1x plus 3. Y equals negative 1x plus 3. It doesn't matter if you put the negative 1 or not. So know for sure how to work parallel lines transverse by transversal, and also know how to find slope and write the equation of a line. Lines that are parallel have the same slope. Lines that are perpendicular have opposite reciprocal slopes. And that is chapter 3.